My name is Pip Robinson. To start this talk, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands where I live and work. I am situated on the land of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, near the banks of the Birrarung, or Yarra River, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and their families. I also acknowledge our presence on country of which sovereignty has never been ceded. Today I'm going to discuss stories of identity development in early career music teachers. When I talk about early career, I mean those in the first 5 years of their teaching. This comes from my current doctoral research, which has just been completed. The purpose of the study was to examine the factors that contribute to professional identity formation in early career music teachers. While there's been a great deal of research into pre-service music teachers, there's far less in teachers who are in practice. I've called the paper Nurturing the Profession because what I found in my research demonstrates the importance of supporting and developing early career music teachers as they build their teacher selves. Nurturing is also key to keeping teachers in the profession, which in turn should ensure the future of music as a valuable part of music education. So, what makes a music teacher? One of the things that we do as teachers is develop a professional identity. And when you first go into a school in an official capacity as a qualified teacher, this is still an emergent thing. It's still something that isn't set in cement. So it's one of those important things, and in that we develop who we become as a teacher. In my research, I investigated the backgrounds and beliefs of my 10 participants. And I investigated the bodies of knowledge that they had. Possibly most importantly, I asked about their musical experiences, as these seem to be pivotal in informing why music is chosen as a career and then why music education is the next step. All of the participants were musicians before undertaking their undergraduate music degrees and then further embarking on a Master of Teaching degree. But they'd been through different kinds of degrees, so they weren't all just a classical degree. Some had come through a popular stream, some through mixed kinds of courses. As early career teachers, they were working in diverse teaching situations, from well-resourced high SES independent school settings to quite challenged and poorly resourced schools that were in low SES areas. But I wanted to see how teachers who'd come through the same pre-service teaching course developed their professional identities in the early years of their teaching. So they'd come from diverse places. They came through the same teaching course and then they spread out again into diverse situations. I wanted to see the impact of this on their attitudes, practices, how they changed their teaching situations and their longevity in the profession, because I think that this has implications for the profession. I can't go into the detail of all the participant stories here because it is the fabric really and the data of my PhD, and that's a much bigger thing than what we've got time for here. But I'll talk about overarching ideas that came out of those stories. So it seemed that the participants, when they shared their histories with me, this included their first musical experiences in school, out of school, in the family, before school, community experiences, secondary schooling, and right through to their tertiary music education experiences and their performing experiences. They all came from quite diverse places, and not all of them were from musical families, which was quite interesting. However, all of them were encouraged by their families to engage in music at a young age. So all of them had engaged in learning an instrument or voice before they had got to secondary school. They told me their stories of their knowledges, their specific musical knowledge, how they developed that, and then further to that, what they believed about music education. They told stories about their workplaces, so the situation of the workplaces, what they did as teachers, their interactions with their students, and they told me about the changes in workplace and reasons for this. That was interesting because some of them stayed in the same place right across the time of the research, whereas others might have gone to one or two different schools after their initial school. I have to say that they were all working in the secondary sector except one who was working in primary, and there were a couple who worked in that upper primary across middle school area. The participants also told me their ideas about curriculum and pedagogical approaches. And it was interesting about curriculum because some of them went into schools and found absolutely no curriculum, whereas others found very strong and structured curricula. One of the participants in her first year of teaching was told by the school, just write one when it came to the curriculum, which I thought would have been really challenging for a first year out teacher. However, she did this and created a successful music program within the school. They discussed their classroom and instrumental programs and their pedagogical approaches and beliefs. They had engaged in training in all sorts of different pedagogical approaches since leaving the university in their postgraduate teaching degree, and some of them chose to engage in quite disparate musical ideas, from things from Kadai right through to musical futures, and incorporate those both together into a teaching situation in the classroom. They also discussed cultural influences within the school and how this affected their communities of students, and also how they could incorporate that sometimes into their own teaching. Interestingly, I found that many of them were expected to teach VCE music in their first year of teaching, and a number of them were put into the position of actually officially running a department or effectively running a department by being the only person in the school teaching music. It was really interesting to see how their personal adaptability and resilience was so important in how they coped with these situations and how they were developing as teachers. One of the important parts about this, if we're talking about nurturing the profession, is the attrition rates. Of the 10 participants, 2 had left the profession completely within the period of research, and 2 others had significantly altered the course of their teaching. This reflected global trends in teacher attrition rates, which I wasn't expecting to see just in a sample of 10 people. There's a lot of discussion about teacher attrition in the literature, and so I'm going to go through a little bit of that. In 2012, Russell found that rather than a single cause, there were a range of stresses impacting secondary music educators' decisions to make career changes. Mason and Mattis in 2015 conducted a literature review looking at the impact of the teaching context on attrition rates, finding that a lack of support and leadership and complexities of school politics were impactful. That was from Gallant and Riley in 2017. A lack of support structures from Harmson et al. In 2018 and Hancock in 2008. Feelings of isolation from Sheeb in 2003. The pressure of extracurricular expectations from Hancock in 2008. Public visibility on what they were actually doing and the pressures of that from Kruger in 2000. Classroom management issues from Heston et al. In 1996, and I think they're pervasive things that continue through education today for most teachers. There was also the impact of low salaries and a lack of time to pursue personal musical development and engagement. That was from Vartanyan in 2001. And it was found that all of these things contribute to job dissatisfaction and decisions to leave the profession. Buchanan et al. In 2013 identified the importance of resilience, reflection, responsiveness to students and the school environment, relationships and resourcefulness as important for early career music teachers. They concluded, teachers need recognition and affirmation, and that this process facilitates the development of the resilience that is essential if teachers are to thrive in the profession. In 2015, Conway also looked at the experiences of first-year music teachers, finding that classroom management, isolation, time for planning, unrealistic visions of success, multiple teaching assignments, difficult schedules and timetables, and evaluations and observations by administration were the greatest challenge for those first-year out music teachers. The research that I conducted uncovered three main threads that impacted professional identity development. In terms of identity and beliefs, I found that early musical backgrounds were central to the development of an enduring sense of self-belief as a musician and, in most of the cases, as an educator. Unanimously, the musician identity was intrinsically wound into the sense of self as a teacher, and that being a practicing musician or composer was central to being seen as an authentic music educator. In terms of pre-service emergences, the initial reasons for pursuing tertiary music studies were guided by positive musical experiences during their school years, and that many of the participants were trying to emulate that for their students so that they could support them if that was the choices that they made. In-service emergences were probably most significant. The participants' teaching contexts were highly influential in the development of beliefs about music education. The levels of support received from mentors, colleagues and school administration were key to feelings of security and happiness in the job. The capacity and or willingness of the school to support, resource and fund music, and the ease or difficulty of teaching the student population and dealing with the broader school community were influential. All participants recognised the need to employ a range of pedagogical practices to engage their students and saw curriculum as important. This was especially in relation to the capacity that it has to help them to be organised as teachers. Changes in the workplace were common in the first 5 years of teaching, and as discussed previously, the attrition rates reflected global data concerning teachers who leave the profession within the first 5 years of teaching. So, however, the participants' commitment to music education was, and their support and perceptions about music and the importance of music in people's lives, that was an underlying theme throughout everybody, even those who chose to leave the profession. Interestingly, those who stayed identified more strongly as teachers the longer that they practiced. But those who left the profession identified really strongly as musicians after they left the teaching profession. In fact, one commented that she felt much more like a musician now that she wasn't a music teacher. Importantly for the profession, it seems that many early career music teachers are put into positions of responsibility in their graduate years of teaching. This is incredibly challenging, especially at a time when they are still solidifying their pedagogical practices, navigating curricula, and learning how to be independent professional music educators. From the stories, this appears to happen in schools situated in difficult SES areas or in newer developing schools. So they were less likely to be in charge of something if they were in an established program. Literature concerning teacher attrition highlights the importance of effective mentoring. One of them didn't have this, even though she was in a really very kind of nice school, highly resourced, very settled, established school. There were political issues within the school that meant that she felt under-supported, isolated, bullied and abandoned. And she then decided to leave the classroom teaching profession, stating that she would never go back into the classroom again. So this wasn't part of my research, but I think what we're talking about is nurturing the profession. And so I'd like to talk about what ASME Victoria has been doing to support early career music teachers. Quite a few years ago now, we decided that we would concentrate on this area to try and support those who were going out into the profession with all of the things that face them in those early years. So we developed a series of workshops. Originally, of course, they were face-to-face, but now we deliver the same things online because Victoria's been in lockdown for, well, especially Melbourne, for so long. We have a Facebook page and we have 5 times as many followers on our Facebook page as our membership. We're hoping that that might translate across to more members. But one of the really important things is that we're getting information, activities, ideas out there into the broader teaching community about what we do and about the things that we can provide. We also use the Facebook page to share recent happenings in music education, including things from AITSL, the new VCE music study design, surveys, and also opportunities from other professional associations. This is really important because we don't see ourselves as exclusive. We see that all of the music education professions, professional associations, should be working together to support each other, to support our profession, which is increasingly vulnerable in some ways because of lockdowns, because of how money is going to be, because of how education might look slightly different in the future. It also gives, we give opportunities for teachers to network and create relationships with each other, and they're really important things, as us older educators know. Also, we provide a place for people to raise questions and engage in Q&A sessions. We've had facilitated speakers sessions where people can come in and ask questions and learn things, like drop-in sessions. And the explicit aim of all of this has been to support early career music teachers and pre-service music teachers from early years programs right through to secondary. This program of workshops will continue and will expand next year. Finally, what I'd like to say, as a seasoned and experienced music educator, that I believe it is our responsibility to support and nurture the next generation of music educators and provide spaces and places for them to thrive and develop the knowledge that will build healthy, solid, professional music teacher identities. Here are my references, and thank you for watching.